Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to do my review of Avatar, The Way of Water, aka Avatar 2. So, when Avatar came out a bunch of years ago, it was an amazingly groundbreaking film. New technologies had been developed to make it, and those have gone on to be used in the industry, if I'm not mistaken. And the motion capture work that was done was unprecedented at the time, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, motion capture had been done, but this was some serious stuff. And the other visuals were incredible. It was just a groundbreaking film in a lot of ways, and people have been anticipating the promised sequels ever since. And so we finally got Avatar 2, called The Way of Water. And normally I would give a breakdown of the plot that's kind of a blow by blow, moment to moment, overview of the story of a film or of the film that I'm reviewing. But I'm not going to do that this time. And it's because none of it matters. None of the moment to moment stuff in this movie is worth talking about in terms of how it impacts the plot, such as it is. You don't really have to follow the action in the film from moment to moment to see a story unfold, because it's just not that kind of story. I mean, there's the bare bones of that kind of story, but there's no point in going over what happens moment to moment in this film, because most of it is entirely inconsequential to anything. So the very overall plot of this film is, after the events of the last film, 10 years have gone by, and Jake Sully is living his best Na'vi life on Pandora with the Zoe Saldana character and like 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. I think 3 of them are theirs, and one of them is the adopted daughter. One of them is a daughter they've adopted that came from a pregnancy that occurred in the Sigourney Weaver character's Avatar from the first movie. Now, the reason it's called Avatar to begin with is because it's about humans that go to Pandora, and in order to mix in with the population and be able to relate to them and, blend in with them and I guess make them more comfortable for anthropological purposes, they pilot these artificial entities that they call avatars. So they do a mind link, as I recall, with these creatures, and they walk and talk and whatever else around on the planet in these avatars that they're mind linked to from a remote location. So how one of those had a kid, I don't know. I don't know if I'm missing something that I'm not remembering from the first movie that would explain that, but they're not like people. They're just avatars. They're just vessels that are able to move around and stuff. They don't and talk and hear. They don't have, my understanding is they didn't have internal organs and the capacity to birth youngins. So I don't know how that happened. And in the movie, they say, oh, it's a bit of a miracle. It's kind of hard to understand how it happened. And they don't know who the father is. But how did the avatar get pregnant? I mean, not the mechanics of the act, but how is it possible? I might have to go back and watch the first movie, but I think whatever they might say to explain it would just sound like bullshit. And so I don't know. I don't know how that happened. Of course, Sigourney Weaver's not in the movie except for a split second, which to me was a big thumbs down. Like, why not have Sigourney Weaver in the movie? Like, find a way to write the story so she can be in it. Anyway, 3 of the kids adopted that one. Now, once again, in the first one, this Jake Sully character is, if I'm not mistaken, wheelchair bound, but he's not, of course, when he's operating the avatar. But in this, he's his Navi self, which was just an avatar, right? Like, what? How did he impregnate Zoe Saldana? Now, did somewhere along the line did he get cloned as a Navi and have his memories implanted, because that's what they do for the villains in this movie. The villains in this movie are all dead human soldiers from the first visit 10 years previously. Why, I don't know. Who have just had their personalities and memories implanted into clone bodies that are Na'vi. So is that what he is? Because they don't say that in this movie. Did it happen at the end of the previous movie? I don't recall. But it has to be that. I'm going to go back and check with the original movie, but it has to be that, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the humans show up again, the sky people, as they're called, to try yet again to, harvest the resources of Na'vi, and in fact, to move humanity from Earth to Na'vi because Earth is dying. So yeah, they reused that gem of a trope. Anyway, so it's 10 years later at the beginning of the movie. From the beginning of the movie, you then jump forward a year after the Sky People arrive. And in that time, they've established a base. And like I said, they're trying to colonize the planet. And Jake Sully, because don't forget, he's a soldier who wouldn't really have any muscle memory of being a soldier because he was paralyzed. But let's skip past that. Is leading the Na'vi forest people in a bit of an uprising, as it were, against the Sky People, the people that are trying to take over the planet, colonize the planet, as you would. And so the Sky People are pissed, and they need this to stop because it's interfering with their operations. So they send in the villain from the last movie, who was killed by the Zoe Saldana character, in the form of this Na'vi clone. It's been freaking 11 years. Why that guy? I don't know. Anyway, and he's been dead for 11 years. Anyway, so it isn't long before they, go after Sully directly, because he's the leader. He's John Connor in this, right? And they've got to eliminate him. And then all their problems are solved, because none of the other Na'vi will know anything about how to do anything about their planet being messed with. It's just this one guy, you kill him, and they're going to all be like, oh, we don't know how to fight back.
Wait. Where have I heard that plot before? A movie where they gotta kill one guy because he's the key to thwarting their plans. So killing him eliminates the opposition to their evil plan. Where have I heard that before?
So they go after him, and his family, of course, gets in the crosshairs. And so he decides he's going to go far, far away to the other side of the planet. I don't know about the other side of the planet, to a far off part of the planet, and be with the seafaring tribe, the name of which I forget, so that they can't be found. They won't be found they're not going to be in the forest. They're going to be somewhere else, and the bad people won't know where to look for them. And so they do that. And it works for a while, despite the fact that the bad guys are still looking for him. Then ultimately they find him, and a final conflict ensues, and then it gets left open for part 3. That's basically the plot of the film. Now, interspersed with that plot, over the course of this 3-hour movie, are a whole lot of scenes of his kids doing the stuff that kids do, getting into trouble with the rival kids from the tribe that they're trying to merge with. And when they're not getting into trouble, they're interacting with nature. And, none of this was bad stuff. Like, okay, we've all seen movies about kid groups that, struggle to find themselves and go through stuff, like Stand By Me, for example, Jumanji, movies like that. So it's fine, but it's not. What has that got to do with Avatar? What does that got to do with the overall? Like, in other words, is that the movie I went to see? No, I didn't go to see that. I went to see a fantasy movie with an action plot. So why am I spending the better part of this movie watching a YA film with these National Geographic type sequences of nature stuff? Now, don't get me wrong, it was gorgeous. The National Geographic documentary type stuff that they do in this movie with the, fantastical environments on Navi, not only in the forest at the beginning, but the underwater stuff is it's amazing to behold. Okay. And it was done in a very artistic way, and it's somewhat moving. It's visually stunning, which I say all the time about visually stunning things. So I was glad to see it. I enjoyed those sequences, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out that in terms of the structure of a film, those sequences were too many, too long, and it leaves you wondering what movie you're watching. So I don't know. I don't know why they did it. And the actors actually went underwater and did mocap stuff, right? So it looks great. And there is a good family getting through a rough time, coming together through diversity story in this movie. But that's not the movie I went to see. So I was a little thrown by that because, there wasn't this business with kids in the first movie. It was a love story between Sully and the Zoe Saldana character, and how they were going to get the tribe through this situation where the Sky People were trying to obtain the unobtainium, and it's about how Jake learns about their culture and adopts to it and finds new meaning in his life. So that was fine, but that was absent from this movie. It was a very tepid family survives through hardship type of story. It was a very tepid, hey, these kids are kind of sort of coming of age story. And there was a lot of weird stuff thrown in that I guess was planted seeds for the next film. Like there's something with the daughter that was adopted where she has epilepsy apparently, and it gives her weird abilities and a weird connection with nature that I think she's going to end up honing in the next movie that'll help something in some way. But in this movie, it just seemed weird. It was oddly placed. Like it was foreshadowing, but not so much foreshadowing that you go, oh, okay, that you can really see they're building to something. You can almost miss that it's foreshadowing. We know she has epilepsy, by the way, because she does this thing where she communes with a particular part of nature and it gives her a seizure. And so Jake has to call in his friends from the military who stayed on the planet from before, who swore loyalty to the Na'vi, who are on the side of the Na'vi, who are still on the planet. And his people come to help and they realize she's got epilepsy. So, stuff like that just made the movie weird. And Zoe Saldana is barely in this movie, which is awful because she was a focus in the first one and she was great. And in this one, she's very much background. Jake is very much background because it's all about the kids. And the other plot is kind of there just to support it, not to drive the movie, really. And it's very much rehash. It's a rehash plot. Oh, the humans are here to rape the planet or to take over the planet, or same thing. It's the same plot. We got rid of them 10 years ago. They're back. Took them 10 years, but they're back. Oh, and let's fight them again. What? And then they're going to do it again because there's going to be a third one. Another thing that was annoying, by the way, is that Jake apparently has taught his kids all this like human lingo and has given them kind of some military training. So they behave like soldiers a lot of the time. They know, I shouldn't say that a lot of the time. They know how to get into soldier mode. And so they do that sometimes. And it's kind of weird because you have to think about, oh, yeah, he must have trained them, but they don't show that and they don't say that. So you just kind of left to assume it. And they also speak in a very human vernacular. So they've adopted like his way of speaking that he would have had when he was still in his human body, which I guess he carried on once he was in his Navi body. But again, you're left to assume that. And the other kids that they meet that weren't exposed to that almost kind of do the same thing. Not really, but they're very close to it. They behave in similar ways. And it's like, why would they behave in ways similar to them when they're not like them? It was very strange, very strange. I just didn't understand it. One thing I want to know is that you can tell the difference between the Force people and the Sea people, which was very cool. I was glad that they did that. And I want to say that the Navi women are hot. So there's that. but I don't know. I didn't love this movie. I didn't even really like it. Again, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous to behold, but it's a turkey other than that. It really is. And that's unfortunate. But at the moment I can't think of anything else to say about this movie.
Oh, wait, hold up, hold up. Yes, I can. Okay, so at the end of this movie, there's a sequence where both the father, Jake, and the Zoe Saldana character, and two of the kids are trapped like underwater in a ship that's upside down and going down, and they like have just like an air pocket and it's filling up. And it's supposed to be this tense moment because you think, oh my goodness, if they can't find a way out of this crashed, sunken, messed up, twisted ship before all the air pockets fill up, they're going to die, they're going to drown. The problem is that through the whole movie, you see them playing around underwater and holding their breath for very, very long periods of time. Not just the underwater people who normally live in that way, but also Jake and his family, who, okay, they don't do it quite as easily, and at a certain point, they start to have to come up for air, but they can stay underwater a very long time, to the point where you're thinking, wow, even the forest people can really stay underwater a long time. At one point, they show one of the characters hooking themselves up to a creature underwater that helps them breathe underwater so they can stay under longer. But before they do that, and without doing that, these characters are able to stay under the water and hold their breath or breathe underwater or whatever a very long time. So when at the end, when they're like having to swim a little bit of a distance and find their way out of a like maze to get to the surface, you're thinking, well, this is no problem. They can do this. Why is this supposed to be a tense moment? Why are we like supposed to be afraid they're not going to make it? It was kind of stupid. Anyway,
It just it's very if you like to watch a bunch of teenagers run around and kind of come of age and a subplot within that that's kind of like what we call it there free willy or kind of like a free willy plot where boy connects with animal, there's that. But other than that, it's it's a jumble, it's a mess. The overarching plot is uninspiring. The villain is almost a mustache twirling villain. It just makes no sense. No Sigourney Weaver. It just barely any Zoe Saldana. Just not good. And it's a middle movie, so maybe the third one will be great, and this will be one of those middle movies that sucks. Because sometimes middle movies suck. Although with Star Wars, people consider Empire to be the pinnacle, but a lot of times middle movies in a trilogy suck. So I don't know. I don't know if that explains it, but anyway, that's my 2 cents. We can talk about it more in the comments. I'm sure there's stuff I forgot. I might end up doing an addendum to this video, but I didn't love it. I didn't love it. I didn't even like it. I enjoyed the visuals. That's it. That's really it. So, okay, I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with more content soon. Until then, I wish you peace and long life.